Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and this is a very special conversation that we are going to be having in today's Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas. We will be talking about the impact of a film which is being termed as a movement. And whichever newspaper you look at, whichever television channel you look at, there are people talking about it. There are multiple reasons, and how this film is affecting our psyche. What is it which makes this film so important? We will learn about the Kashmir Files, intent and impact. Indeed, about the necessity of or significance of having such a film. Let me take the opportunity of welcoming Dr. Nalini Juthani ji. Namaste, स्वागत है आपका. So while I sincerely appreciate you joining us, let me request you to share what do you think about the film The Kashmir Files? What was your response, first response, um, having been through the experience of watching this film?
Kashmir Files, as soon as I heard about it, although I did not have any other ideas out of pure ignorance, I was very inclined to see the movie in the theater. So I watched this movie this week and took with me two other couples so that we were six of us. And I felt very strongly that we should see it in a theater. Although some people were getting some kind of links and they were trying to watch, but they didn't see the whole thing and things like that. After being in the theater and as the movie began, I became more and more interested in what is this? What's going on? Where was I? And it got my mind clouded a lot, and it was very disturbing as the movie progressed. The first thing I felt was my इतने प्रणाम अग्निहोत्री जी से कि जिन्होंने इतना करेज के साथ ये मूवी बनाई है. I have a little bit of special corner for Kashmir. That was the first trip that I made with the help of my grandfather as a independent student while I was in high school. And Kashmir and its natural beauty had taken me by leaps and bounds. And that's the first time I got a camera that my grandfather bought for me, the boxed camera that we used to have, huge one. And he said, I will never be able to go there, but I want to see Kashmir through your eyes and through this camera. As I felt more and more into it as the movie began to progress, I also went into my very first psychiatry training with a doctor who was 3 years older than me, and he was from Kashmir. And we knew that he had left Kashmir in late 60s, and then after that he trained in Delhi, and then he came to United States. But there was never any talk about all these things which were going on. They didn't happen one fine day in 1990s. This was going on, totally ignored, and that bothered me so much that my emotions fluctuated from sadness to anger to betrayal, that people who kept us in dark, and I was not alone. Nobody knew about it. And to this date, I have not heard anything from my group of people from India. I have heard a lot from people in United
Okay, so
States.
now let me interrupt you here, and that interruption leads me to request your input on what I think is the way we set our priorities, and the way we assume that by avoiding certain conversations, or by ignoring what has happened, we are somewhere managing to stay in our comfort zone. And if such questions through these kind of incidents come, and they raise multiple questions, as you said, from sadness to anger. So people, now, since we are talking about the Kashmir files and the way things unfolded, as you are aware, and there have been many news reports and television interviews which corroborate what you have seen in the film. What I'm trying to say is these are based on facts. So some people start questioning that they are not facts. So keeping that part aside, uh, accepting that these are facts, which they definitely are, and it is such a brutal way, inhuman way, in which any human being can behave against another human being, that you get to see. So people sometimes come up with the argument that it is better to avoid having conversation about such issues. Now, I'm actually going slightly beyond the Kashmir files. That's what we individually also do many times. That if some baggage of a tragedy is sitting in our past, then we said don't bring that up, etc. So collectively also, and Hindus have most of the time sort of worked in a way that they don't tell their kids about what they have been through if it was not pleasant. And as you are aware, in the film also, the grandfather of Krishna Pandit didn't tell him the fact. So now talk to me about, as a psychiatrist, which approach is good to move forward.
We are all products of our families, culture, religion, if we have a religion. And we are Hindus traditionally have gone with this culture and with this religion, where we tend to say that it is not important to go into conflict, whether it is in the family, whether it is with the siblings, or whether it is with friends. And we believe in forgiveness. That happened, forgive. We do not take revenge. We do not go after people with any kind of bad feelings, carrying it in our heart. And that can be seen as a weakness in the hearts of many other people. And then it can lead to people being abused because of their niceness, or because of their quietness. And that is why some of these things are happening to Hindus. We have seen these things happen even in America. We have seen that in colleges. And those things are also, as professors, Hindu students versus others have occurred. We have not gone and told people that this should be part of our history. I myself has been thinking, I have studied Holocaust. I have taken my children to Auschwitz, where the Holocaust camps were there.
So I'm sorry. I know what you're saying is very important, but it just triggers this question to me, that probably Hindu mindset is prepared to learn about something like Holocaust, but when it is their own pain, they kind of disassociate with it. And now, putting this in the context of India, and the way we have the need and importance of peaceful coexistence, um, people are coming up with the argument that when you bring these kind of issues on the surface, they are going to cause a kind of unrest. And now, look, let us analyze it from both sides. Partly, this argument also is true, but then if you keep on avoiding and hiding behind some illusion, then the chances that you will have more of such things are also there. So, which way you think we collectively as a society should go, keeping the need of having a sustainable harmony?
We have to remember one thing: we do not exist in isolation in this universe. If nothing touches us, then we do not go out and look why there is injustice in the larger community. Because where there is injustice, it breeds in silence. And we got to keep that in mind. We do not go and report it to anybody. Media gives crime a political angle. So if media finds out, they will immediately go into the areas that we will tend to run away from. Identity of the perpetrator is hidden. There is no reason for that if there is injustice. And so we have to be aware of this, not only for ourselves, we have to look out for the community at large, and we have to take actions. That is the most important thing, rather than see it in any kind of religious or any particular political angle.
So now, what, however you say that away from religious angle or political angle, but politics is there. Religious angle is definitely there, because these were Hindus and they were made target of, and there were slogans shouted against that community, and I kind of find it uncomfortable even repeating those slogans with which these people were humiliated in the valley. And unfortunately, actually, in India, newspapers almost didn't report it. Forget about getting into the in depth investigative journalism. So, whatever was the reason, and now that it is being shown in the film the way it is shown, it has happened for the first time. Uh, in last 3 4 years only people started having a little bit of whisper about it, but now it is such a loud thing, where prime minister is also talking about it. Mostly all media has spoken about it now. Taking that reference of anger, how would you advise this anger, which is not an individual's anger, now it is a collective anger, how it should be channelized so that it takes us to a better, healthy uh, society, which is development oriented and which doesn't get caught into more turmoil of this kind?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that we talk about it. There is no reason to shy away from it. And secondly, that we take this at a higher level, not get stuck into anger and all the emotions, but let's look at the facts and bring in the facts, because Agnihotri has all the facts, and people who have challenged him, they have gone back to identify the kid who was there at that time, and a lot more has been done so that people can see. Means I am sure that those who have committed these crimes cannot be sleeping well at night, and cannot be doing these things and passing it on to their generations, that that's the way to do when there is any kind of any trouble that comes to your place. I believe that all human beings have a heart, and that there are some who are cover it by whether it is religion or whether it is hierarchy of their political system, whatever it is. We must talk about it. We must talk about it, and we should do it in a way that we understand that nobody should be treated in an inhuman way, the way Kashmir Files has shown. Those are the things. No adult, no child, no women could be treated the way we saw in this. It is just unbelievable. There are scenes that I could not keep my eyes open. And it's I'm sure there are other people who probably felt the same way.
Actually, I remember the last scene, the way these people were lined up and they were shot. That was reported in some foreign media with images, and now that is going around in the social media. But I never knew about it earlier. Uh, Now the thing is, because this is a clear cut genocide, that term has also been used for the first time. Earlier it was only exodus, and even in you must have seen that frequently seen reporting by Barkha Dutt directly, where she was kind of blaming Hindus having captured plum posts, etc. So she was evading the whole issue or tilting it towards a different side, and what were the details was not known to a common man, which now he has become aware of through this film. Uh, the reason I say all this is there is a clear-cut divide. Actually, this was ethnic cleansing, exodus, genocide of Hindus. Now there were others who were doing it. So whenever you talk about it, those who were not in the valley, they are somewhere in other states of India, they sometimes feel that this is finger being pointed at them. So that psychology also needs to be addressed, and then they become defensive. They first start denying, then if these facts are shared with them, then they feel that this is an uncalled for way of creating divide and polarizing the society. So your take on this churning of different thoughts?
Which I understand that nobody likes to feel that it was their ancestors or whoever was in that land that did this. And so they try to defend themselves. And the defensive mechanisms are usually to blame somebody else. And if there are facts, there are facts. When you can show this black and white, you have to admit that it was the unfortunate past. And what can we learn from this so that this can never happen again? We should teach this in our schools. This should be made into a history class where all kinds of people who live in India have to come together, and without pointing fingers, we have to remember that there are people who will succeed, and there are people who are not succeeding will point fingers at others. And that cannot be, because we should help those people who can then succeed and not blame because other people are succeeding. And that requires education from early childhood. Now, those who don't go to school, they go into their own schools, they're never going to get exposed to this. And that's very unfortunate.
So what is the way out is something that we all need to address in a way which sustains a sense of togetherness. But that doesn't mean that somebody is at the receiving end, and whether it's minority, majority, whatever be the reason, language, religion. Uh, Inequality of any kind, the sense of equality and human dignity should prevail in
Exactly.
all cases. From that point of view, I bring to your attention, United Nations has passed a resolution which is against Islamophobia. So they have declared probably 15th March as International Day um, to increase awareness about Islamophobia, etc. To which Indian ambassador mentioned that it should be a general thing rather than pointing it only to one female, because other religions also experience the kind of hate mongering against them, etc. But I just bring that reference right now because it looks like it is a battle of narratives. So if you don't speak for yourself, your position is described, defined, determined, and kind of established by someone else.
Yes.
So in today's world, with media also, in the case of what happened in the Kashmir, you are aware the media didn't report it properly, and as shown in the film, one professor was also working towards influencing students in a
Yes.
different fashion. How? Um, what is the way out? Because it looks like we are at a stage where the healthy movement uh, of collective consciousness with mutual respect is it looks very difficult, because if you say, I this is my pain, they say you are polarizing. That's the kind of situation that we are facing. Uh, you you seem to process events and sometimes tragedies in a way which makes sense for individuals, as well as uh, I seek your input for the collective wisdom, how it should be shaped.
I go back to the movie, the part which impressed me the most. And that was when the whole young group begins to look into not a ethnic group, Hindu versus Muslims, but they are looking for independence, freedom in Kashmir. And so people involved were of all kinds. They were Kashmiris, they were not Hindus or Muslims. And that's where some of the brainwashing that was occurring. It was occurring under the name of this kind of freedom that everybody wanted, young people even more. And this is the time when this young man goes out and finds all the information, negative and positive. His mind becomes really confused and he fluctuates from one end to the other end, is beautifully captured. And then when he gets the final files, that's the time he puts all of these aspects together and he is able to carry the entire young crowd. And that's when the woman, of course, the actress at that time, Vidya, leaves the group. That was very, very nicely
Pallavi,
pictured.
Pallavi,
Pallavi leaves at that time, the professor.
yes.
And that is something that caught my mind, that that's the way to do it. That's the way you can talk to younger people. How couple of young people got up and said, no, I want to listen to this guy's story. And he goes from the historical aspect. What was Kashmir all about? Why is it called Kashmir? And that it is mine or it is yours is not an issue.
So,
Kashmir still remains Kashmir.
so lastly, I'll ask you one question where I am making comparison with a few other movies. Actually, I'll just name one. Some people are saying that this is a propaganda film, and many people have written that this is because of the BJP and the Hindutva and Prime Minister Modi, etc. So they are discrediting the impact of the movie by giving it a political color overall. That's one side. Now, I think this question is coming from many people, but they didn't raise this same question when the films like My Name Is Khan was made, which again is a commercially made, but it was a propaganda from the other side. So
Correct.
why we have not put a question mark on films like Fana or Fiza or Haider, etc., where it was the point of view of the other side was portrayed. What do you think? What is the psychology at work in having these two different approaches?
So, first of all, when such movies are there and people go there or not go there, the box office flies or box office fails. All this is dependent on people. And if people don't look at all this, and now when BJP or Modi is blamed about it, How come at the time when all these people were killed, nobody looked at it? Where was the media? Where was the government? And at that time, right now, easy to blame Modi. How about the government who was there for a whole more than a decade? And actually, this was going on for 30 years plus. Where was the government at that time? Who was the minority at that time? So one cannot just listen to it and be afraid of it.
So, concluding part, as a psychiatrist, you feel having such facts out there in open is healthy for the sustainable growth of the society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's the only way we will be able to live together in a rich country like India, where we have never seen good and bad. Instead, we have always seen people all equal. My best friend from high school, elementary school, is a Muslim woman, and we have never talked about it. We don't talk about religion, and we are best friends.
So may that friendship continue, and let there be friendship, because we
Yes.
on this planet are not going to be mm, present in this human form all the time. So whatever time we have, rather than quarreling, fighting, let us find the unified force which is there in all human beings. And I appreciate you joining us and clarifying some of the questions which are bothering most of the people right now after having seen the Kashmir files. Dr. Nalini Juthani ji, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my guest today, Dr. Nalini, I think we had quite a meaningful conversation about the psychological impact of the Kashmir files. Thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Namaste.